Hi. Welcome. If anyone's in yet, I don't know if anyone's even in yet. But if anyone's watching the replay right now, this is Broke Nerfing, and this is the live interview series number 9. Number 9. And I'm here with Ben from FoamCastRadio, 2 words. Say something, Ben.
Hey, how's it going?
We have 4 viewers. Let me open up the chat and make sure that everything looks good. Make sure that I look as pretty as always. So how was your Halloween?
It was fairly uneventful. Around my area, there's not a lot of trick-or-treating that goes on, and I didn't really go out for any parties or anything like that. I made a Halloween costume just for fun, and my wife helped me out with that. Posted that up on Instagram. It was mostly just for fun, though.
Was that the big dart that you were wearing? That's cool, man.
Yeah, big giant Nerf dart.
That was cool. I almost used that as our thumbnail, actually. Man. Oh, so actually, I think us 3 are the ones that are even in here right now. I'm seeing 3 viewers, and I bet it's us 3.
That's okay. We're gonna have more viewers later once it's recorded. So.
Oh, true. They could watch Broke Nerfing on demand. So yeah, I'm here with Ben from FoamCastRadio and my friend David in the back. Hey, David. Wait. Let me see if I can squish your head. How mature? He's the new moderator on my channel, the new sheriff in town, as you will. But I let a lot of stuff slide in the chat, anyways. So it's not like it's more of a status thing, I don't really get on people for cussing. All right, so might as well just go ahead then.
Sure.
Go ahead and jump right into it. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sounds good.
Don't tell me what to do. No, all right. All right, man. So where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Portland, Oregon. Now I live in Spokane, Washington. And I've been in the Spokane area for about 10 years or so.
Oh, right on, man. I didn't know you were even on the West Coast.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Right on. So when did you get into the hobby?
I originally got into the hobby of, blaster toys about 2 years ago or so, a little more than that. And basically it was just I had some friends that were going to put together a Nerf battle, and nobody else was really into Nerf necessarily. It was just that everybody thought, hey, this will be a fun thing to do. So I went out and bought a couple of blasters. I bought a Rapid Strike and a Triad. And I think I bought some extra darts, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I bought a bunch of the cheap, Chinese darts that fly terribly. And I still have those blasters, actually. And that's how I got started. And then from there, it just kind of got out of control pretty quick. And I ended up with a whole bunch of blasters and started modding stuff. Almost immediately. Just, once I realized that if I opened it up, it wasn't going to explode everywhere, and I was actually going to be able to put it back together again from watching YouTube videos and stuff, I started to get kind of brave and open things up and, play with stuff, take out locks and things like that. And now, it's I have a lot of fun with it. So,
right on. We have Nerf Block in the chat. Thanks for showing up, Nerf Block. We have Nerfer 99, and they call me Socks is back. He said boobs. Very good. Very good. I couldn't agree more. Socks.
He's contributing.
There you go. Was that a question? I didn't see any punctuation there. So about 2 years ago, you got into the hobby, and you said, you said you started modding about immediately afterwards.
Yeah, pretty quick. Not with those blasters necessarily. It was just I was picking up blasters here and there, and I knew that there were ways to make them more powerful. And so that was kind of what I initially started looking up. And then I learned all about locks and realized that I could start taking those out. And so then I started doing that and started, messing with things. And now I'm into, doing the electronic stuff. I'm still not great at soldering. So I actually have a friend that does a lot of that for me because I don't really trust myself. But I like going out and getting the replacement parts and everything, and, doing the voltage mods and rewires and all that stuff. And I also work on springers a lot, because that's something that doesn't take a lot of time. I can take out a blaster and swap the spring out and, pull out the air restrictor and stuff like that. And it's pretty simple and easy. And, a lot of the same mods are applicable to lots of different springers. So I like playing with those too.
You said you were a noob, man. You said you were a noob to modding.
No. I said I started 2 years ago. I didn't say I was a noob.
Didn't you say that to me before? Like, didn't you say that not so long ago that you are pretty new at modding?
I mean, relatively compared to some other people, like I haven't done any brass barrels or anything like that. And I still don't have a blaster that's designed for short darts. I mean, obviously I can shove a short dart into a Maverick or something like that, but I don't have anything specifically for short darts. So it's kind of funny because Worker sent me a box of short darts and I was like, thanks. I don't have anything to use these in. I guess I'll have to make something. So,
hey, banking on money. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Everybody who's in the chat, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to support each other in the chat, support each other's channels. Sisters Fun Learning Experience and Pete Fuzzy Pete, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm here with Ben from FoamCast Radio, 2 words. I have to make that clear because I posted all this 1 word and he gave me an earful.
No, I didn't.
He verbally terrorized me. I almost was so shook up I couldn't even come online. I couldn't even come on here. I was crying for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, I had to give him a pep talk to get him to change his mind. He wanted to cancel the whole thing. So you're welcome, everybody.
You had to give me fruit snacks. You had to bribe me with these fruit snacks.
All right. I'm not sure how I got him over there, but teleportation or something.
Science. So, if you guys want to check out FoamCast Radio, I left a link in the description of this to FoamCast Radio's website. You could check out everything from there. But after the stream is done, don't go now. Oops, don't go now. After this is done, you want to hear all about it. Broke lives matter. Yes, they do. So, what do you get out of it? What do you get out of the nerfing hobby, like the modding and everything, and the wars? What do you get out of this?
Honestly, it's just a ton of fun. Before I got into blasters, I experimented a little bit with airsoft. I felt like most people who played airsoft took it way too seriously, and so I didn't have a lot of fun with that. But NERF was something where it was kind of like, it's almost like ridiculous because we're literally playing with toys. And so that's what makes it, even more fun. And that's also part of the reason why I like to leave all of my blasters appearing stock. I don't like doing a lot of cosmetic modifications, is because I like for them to look like toys, because that's kind of part of the appeal of it to me, is getting out there and having a good time and acting like a kid. And then, kind of taking a break from adult responsibilities for a little while. But yeah, it's just a ton of fun. And I think it's something that's kind of universal. It's fun for most people, maybe not everybody, but most people. I have yet to meet someone who can shoot somebody else with a Nerf blaster and not have a giant smile on their face. Like, everybody just has fun. So that's really the appeal of it to me.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Uncle Clowny, he showed up in the chat. Thanks for showing up, Uncle Clooney. Let's see who else is here. Oh, just Uncle Clooney. These are the latest to show up. Thank you so much. I keep a lot of my blasters stock on the outside. And it's just that I haven't got into. I want to learn how to paint. That's like when I want to learn some. When people ask me, what do you want to start doing in the future? Painting and integrations. But I like the way you think though, keeping it like a toy on the outside. I think I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna tell people that now until I start painting. When they ask me why.
You're gonna steal my excuse.
Yeah, that'll be my excuse now. Man, these are toys. I want them to look like toys.
Well, no, it's actually I do really like hydro dipping. I think hydro dipped blasters look really cool. That's something that I would like to get into. Painting though, like spray painting stuff, I don't know. It just it doesn't really have a lot of appeal to me because I feel like that's cool if you're trying to make a prop or something. But if I'm going to go out and play on on the field with people, I definitely don't want to be worried about like paint chipping or anything like that. Like
True.
especially if I like tried to make it look realistic or sci-fi or something, but then underneath you still have all the original plastic, and if you scrape something up, that yellow or orange or blue or whatever comes right through. And I would be so worried all the time about bumping against a tree or a wall or whatever and damaging my paint job. And I mean, the same thing applies to hydro dipping, but hydro dipping, I have seen some really, really cool ones. And
Yeah.
that seems like something that would be really fun to get into.
My friend Justin, he's one of my friends from high school. He's also a veteran like me. And his daughter was going to a NERF birthday party. He lives in Oregon right now, but he knows I do that I'm big into NERF and modding and all that. And he actually went and he got a stripe for his daughter for the birthday party, and he went and he sanded it and he hydro dipped it, and it looks so dope. He did all, he hydro dipped it. He hydro dipped the attachments that came with it and everything. It looked so good. And he's not into this. It was the first time he ever did it. And I was like, dude, I haven't even started that kind of stuff. And he's already doing something way cooler than I have. Hey,
Yeah, it definitely is cool. I guess I am a little more focused on the performance aspect of it. I like beefing things up and making them shoot straighter and farther and stuff like that.
true. Yeah. Especially with me being more into the competitive stuff. With Jangular's Blaster Tag Association, I was more concerned on the internals first than to do the externals. The most stuff I've done on externals is got like a kit, Monkey Mods. They sponsor me for the tournament, so they sent me like a vector kit and some 3D printed parts I've gotten for the external parts I've gotten. That's like the most I've done on the external of the blasters. But actually, someone had a question for you. I kind of went past it because we kind of got into it there. It was, what is your favorite blaster to mod? I think it was. Let me see who said it so I can give them credit. Let's see.
Nerf block.
Oh, Nerf block said it. Okay, Nerf block. Yeah.
Well, let's see. I think I probably should clarify the question a little bit before I answer. I don't have a lot of blasters that I have multiples of that I've modded a whole bunch of them. So if you're asking like which one do I like modding and I've modded a bunch, not really any. I mean the one I've modded the most is the Maverick. I have like 5 of those and I've modded them all. But they're all modded in exactly the same way. And I think probably the one that I enjoyed modding, like just because it was so simple and easy and it just kind of blew my mind of how simple it was, has to be the X-Shot Turbo Advance. I was amazed with how easy it was to mod. I literally was able to pop out the air restrictor in 30 seconds without even opening the shell and without breaking anything, just using a screwdriver. And then after that, I was searching around online and stuff, trying to figure out what would be a good spring to put in it. And somebody said, hey, stock Chronos spring goes right into it easily. And so I put that in there, and I mean, it shoots really hard. It's awesome. And I mean, it took like almost no work at all. And it is a pretty formidable blaster. I actually really like what X-Shot has going, and I hope they keep it up as far as like coming out with cool blasters for us.
Yeah, I do too. I'm a big fan of Zuru. I like the what was it, the MK6 that they have, that that 6 round cylinder that
Yeah,
pull back. It's kind of like a fire strike with a cylinder. It's so, dude, that
yeah.
thing, you could make that shoot really, really hard, and it's really accurate. I want to brass the cylinder when I get time to do it and I get ambition. I want to start doing, start working on that one a bit more. But yeah, that one is awesome. Nerfer 99 is asking you, what is your favorite Nerf line? And also, if you guys have questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat and I will get to them. And I wanted to welcome Lightning Eagle and Ryan Engelstad. Thank you guys so much for stopping in. Everybody, remember to support each other's content in the chat. Check out each other's channels, support each other. We all want to grow. So go ahead, take it away, Ben.
Favorite Nerf line. I mean, I really like the Modulus line just because they're adding so much stuff into it now. We've got the Demolisher, we've got the Long Strike, and who knows what else they're going to add to it.
The expensive line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're talking about Nerf, you're talking about expensive, right? If you compare it to the other manufacturers.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would say probably Modulus. I really like the fact that they're bringing more stuff into Modulus and releasing Modulus versions of things. Other than that, probably just N-Strike Elite. A lot of the classic ones, I like the man, now I'm blanking on the name, of course, but I like the Rapid Strike. I like the Strife. I like the Demolisher. And I'm working on a Strife build right now. It's going to be, I'm going to be taking it on Saturday, and I'm putting Krakens in it with Containment Crew, Cyclone flywheels. And fortunately, I found a 3S LiPo that will fit in the stock battery tray with the stock battery door, which I really wanted because I don't like having all those extended parts. I want it to look stock as much as possible. So that's kind of cool that I was able to find one that actually fits in there. And so I'm going to be taking that out and trying it on the field in a couple of days. So that's kind of cool.
Nice, man. Hey, emergency vehicles, thanks for stopping by. And California Nerf, that's Jeff. Thank you so much for stopping in, guys. I appreciate it. Members to like the smash button and help each other out in the chat. Check out each other's content, support each other. Yeah, you know what? I just got Krakens. I just put them into my Demolisher. I have it laying in the back there. That Demolisher used to have the OG Rhino motors in there, and I won from the BTA 5-on-5 at Ragnarok Festival. My team came in 4th, and we all got we all got prizes that were about $70 each. And I got the Aurora cage and a $50 gift certificate to Foam Blast. So I grabbed I grabbed Cyclone wheels, I grabbed some Bulldog wheels, and I grabbed some Kraken motors and a few other little things I needed. Yeah, and I threw those into this Demolisher back there. I love the Demolisher, by the way. I love it. That's one of my favorite blasters. And yeah, I dig those motors, dude. I really do. I mean, those suckers scream too, man. But they're awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to mine being done and ready to use. So, but I did notice that somebody asked in the chat. They asked, "What's the most that I've spent on a single build?" It's probably this Strife that I'm working on, and I think aside from the blaster itself, I probably have only spent like $60 because it's just the motors and flywheels. The cage I got for free. I won it in a Facebook contest, so I got an OFP Aurora from Monkey Mods.
Nice.
And yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then the battery and all the other miscellaneous electrical components. and and I got a thumb screw for the battery door, which is the only thing on it visible from the outside that is visually different. Everything else is internal. So if you just looked at it, sitting in a pile of other stripes, you wouldn't know that it had been modded, which is how I like to do my blasters. But yeah, probably around $60, something like that. I mean, I'm broke too. We all are. So so yeah, I think that's probably the most I've spent on a single build.
Right on. Hey, OC Nerf, thanks for stopping by. We have Nerfing Lionheart Customs, Griever. He's going to be my guest next week, as well as OC Nerf is going to be on here too. OC Nerf and Griever both coming on. Thank you for showing up, guys. Yeah, we had another question. It was, what's your favorite blaster company? Nerfer 99 was asking.
I mean, I definitely really like NERF. I like Hasbro NERF blasters, but they are very expensive. They're the most expensive out of everybody's, I think. So lately I'm leaning toward Dart Zone. I really like Dart Zone blasters, but I also like X-Shot blasters. So I don't know. I don't think I necessarily have a favorite. I like to kind of just experiment and play with everything. So, I mean, I've got I just started getting into Boomco, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of its own animal. But yeah, and I've got a couple X shots, and most of what I have is Nerf, but then most of the blasters out there are made by Nerf. So that makes sense. I guess I don't really know if I have a favorite, but if I had to pick one, I probably would go with Nerf, and only because there's so many more options, and I feel like they have a lot more stuff figured out. A lot of these other companies are still kind of catching up when it comes to some of the technology and stuff. Some of the engineering. I feel like the actual Hasbro Nerf blasters are they have a lot more complicated engineering and mechanisms and stuff that some of the other manufacturers haven't started to get into yet.
I agree with you there. And also another big point with the Nerf brand is that a lot of these companies that make parts, they make them specifically for the Nerf brand. Like they'll make the kits for it, the stocks that work with Nerf adapters. They'll make attachments that work specifically for the Nerf tactical rails, things like that. It's unfortunate too that you don't see a lot of people making things for the other brands that are compatible, like stock attachments. That you could even install to make them fit correctly, things like that. I think that would be a good thing if some of these companies are making kits and other parts that were specifically for these other companies aside from Nerf.
Yeah, definitely, and that's definitely something else that would help some of those other companies is if they made some of their blasters and their parts and accessories more interchangeable. We've seen a little bit of that, like Busby makes their magazines compatible. The Dart Zone ballistics ops, which is their version of Rival. A lot of those can take Rival magazines, stuff like that. But definitely we need to see more of that. Like particularly X-Shot, they like to do the clip-fed blasters, but their clips don't work with anything else. I think it'd be really cool if X-Shot made something that was compatible with Nerf magazines. They would absolutely blow up if they did that.
So we have a couple of questions here. Someone was asking me, Pete Fuzzy Pete was asking me if I've listened to the Detroit Dart Talk podcast on iTunes. No, I have not. I haven't listened to them yet.
I have.
Okay. Yeah. He has. I haven't personally listened to them. I'm trying to get more involved in listening to the podcast. I listened to the MTB podcast before that because it was on YouTube, and I don't really go to iTunes or anything like that. So I plan to start though. And also OC Nerf was asking He asked you, Ben, if your podcasts are anywhere other than iTunes.
Yes. So FoamCast Radio, the FoamCast Radio podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. So it's on Apple Podcasts, formerly iTunes Podcasts. It's on Google Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on TuneIn. It's on Stitcher. It's on Overcast, which is what I use, the Overcast app. It's on Castbox. It's on a whole bunch of different platforms. If you don't have any of those apps or you don't want to install an app or whatever, then you can just go to FoamCastRadio.com and listen right there on the website without having to install anything. But I definitely recommend Overcast. It's a free app and it works really well. And FoamCast Radio is on there. So is Detroit Dark Talk, by the way. And I've checked out their podcast. I definitely like it. It's a little bit different format from mine. Anyone who's listened to FoamCast Radio, like I'm more talking about, okay, here's news, here's reviews, here's upcoming events, here's an interview with somebody. Detroit Dark Talk is a much longer format, sort of conversational podcast. So I definitely enjoy it. I listen to every single episode. And I actually early on, when they first started, I was messaging them and trying to help them out a little bit with their audio quality. Because I know I went through, when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing with audio quality. So I figured, hey, maybe I can like share some tips with these guys. So and they really do a good job, and I enjoy their podcast. But it is a very different format of show from FoamCast Radio.
Cool, man. Well, how did you get into doing these podcasts?
Well, basically, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm kind of addicted to it. I probably am subscribed to like 80 plus podcasts.
Dang, man.
Yeah, I know. And it started out, I needed something to keep me focused while I was at work at the time. Or not focused, but something to keep me from getting bored. And at the time I was working at an auto dismantler shop where basically, wrecked cars come in and they get torn apart and stuff like that. And I had a really boring job, and I've kind of gone from boring job to boring job since then. And so I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm at work. And one of the things that I do is when I start getting into something, I go on my podcast app and I search and I see if I can find a podcast about whatever it is that I'm interested in, so that I can kind of, hear some regular content about it. And I did a search for NERF, and everything that came up was either completely dead, like it hadn't been updated in years, or it was Star Wars related. And the only reason NERF was in there was scruffy looking NERF herder. And so NERF was somewhere in the name or the description or whatever, and it was some Star Wars podcast, or it was a gaming podcast. There's a few where they, like Nerf this and stuff like that, especially Overwatch. That people tend to use the term Nerf a lot when they're talking about Overwatch. But basically what I came away with was there are no Nerf podcasts. And so I kind of got this idea, and I do this thing where I have an idea and it just won't go away. And eventually I just have to do it. So I figured, you know what? I listen to a lot of podcasts. I've been listening to them for a long time. I think maybe I could pull this off. And slowly but surely I got it launched. And then I've put out an episode every week since then. And that was a little over 6 months ago.
Awesome. Hey, Kurz Key Tisha is in the chat. That's my girlfriend, Tisha. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you so much for stopping by. Okay, so you were looking up things for Nerf for podcasts. You couldn't really find anything. Decided to start something up yourself. I think that's really cool. I think that's cool. Like a lot of people that they look for something to do with this hobby, related to this hobby, and they don't see it, and then they try and kind of fill that void themselves. My friend Slater, he was really into competitive Nerf. He was really into the competitive stuff, but he's in New Zealand, and there's there's no way for him to, there was nowhere around that was doing that stuff. So he started he's starting up Quick Flag New Zealand, where he's going to be doing the Quick Flag games and starting his own little competitive NERF group there, which is so awesome. And Boomtendo, where he sees a need for Boomco darts, a cheaper alternative to Boomco darts, and only Boomco, only Mattel makes those darts, so he's trying to produce, a dart, not
and make them better too.
Exactly, and improve on it as well. A cheaper, better alternative to just the Mattel brand, which is really good. So I think it's great what you did with your podcast. You see a need, you want, you see that there's this blank space here for something, and you go ahead and you try to do it yourself. I really do appreciate that. That's
And
very cool.
I think that's kind of common among our community. If you take a look at a lot of the other content and things that have been put out, I think a lot of people got started the same way. Like for example, Jangular creating the Blaster Tag Association, like he thought, hey, this is something that needs to be out there, and it wasn't out there, so he went and made it.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, people coming up with different, homemade blasters that, they think, hey, nobody's making this, like a really good Springer blaster. No one's making one. I'll go make one, stuff like that. So I think a lot of it is people who are making the stuff that they wish was already out there, which is really what I'm doing with the podcast. Is I always try to make a show that I would like listening to. And so, and I think a lot of people do that. And I think that's probably a better strategy than trying to please the masses, because it's just too hard to try to please everybody. But if you make something that you would like, then at least other people like you will also like it.
Yeah. I totally agree. When I speak with people about their channels, like their channels aren't growing that fast, and they're asking me, they ask me for advice about, how my channel would grew fast. I would say, well, do something different. Do something that you would like to watch yourself. If you're making something and it's not something that you would watch, if it's just something that you're doing because you think that other people will enjoy it, then I don't, then your heart's not really going to be into it. Just do something that you think you would like watching, and it's probably going to work out for you.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I think people who get too caught up in trying to do what they think is going to be popular, they miss the whole point of being creative, which is to share something with other people, not just to try to, get to the top or something like that. Because ultimately, I mean, when I first started, my numbers were like nothing. And the best advice I can give anybody who starts a podcast or starts a YouTube channel or anything like that is, do not look at your viewership numbers. Just assume that there are 10 million people watching every single episode or listening to every single episode, and make it accordingly. And if only 4 people watch it, but it's the coolest thing they've ever seen, then awesome. Don't ever look at those numbers, because once you do that, you'll start to overanalyze, and you'll start to go, oh man, this one doesn't have a lot of numbers. Did I do something wrong? What did I change? Like the last one did really well, but this one didn't. What was different? Just don't do any of that stuff. Just focus on trying to make every single episode the best that it can be, and don't worry about what got watched more or anything like that.
Yeah. It's hard though. Honestly, for me, it's difficult not to look at numbers. When if I see my viewership dropping on certain videos, or when I'm live streaming, and like you see the people watching is going down, down. It's tough not to pay attention. I try not to let it get to me though. I really do. I try to keep going, and just keep trying to make content that when someone watches it, they'll appreciate it.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is, if you are watching that number, like if you're constantly checking, like, oh man, oh I'm losing people, like people are dropping off the stream and everything, it'll start to think, maybe we should change the topic or whatever, be more exciting, or change something up. And
Yeah.
attention to that, because otherwise it'll just psych you out and it'll make you start to get worried.
Totally, man. Um, how did you get into doing the podcast? Like, did you have experience doing this, or are you just kind of learning as you go?
Yeah, no, the extent of my experience was listening to podcasts. Like I said, I'm an addict. I listen to lots of podcasts on lots of different topics. I mean, I've talked to people who are like, telling me, oh yeah, I listen to this one podcast, and I'm like, oh, here's 5 others that you would enjoy then, because I just listen to so many different ones in different topics and stuff. So that's the extent of my experience before starting this. And everything from there, I pretty much had to figure out. Like, if you listen to my first few episodes, they're the audio quality is terrible because I was in an echoey room. I was using this microphone right here, which is a gaming headset, which is like a terrible microphone. It's I didn't know what I was doing as far as editing, so I didn't know how to level any of my sound or anything like that. So it's like pretty sad. And you can tell around, I want to say around 16 or 17 episodes in, maybe a little sooner, is when I moved into this environment where I have this foam padding on the walls, which kills the echo. And I got a much better microphone, courtesy of Borrowed Equipment Podcasts. Shout out to them for sending me a spare microphone they didn't need anymore, which I really appreciated. And that was like such a huge help. And my editing, I mean, I'm still not like amazing or anything. Like I said, I don't have any other experience before this, but I like to think that I get better with every episode as far as my editing and stuff. And then as far as like social media promotion and everything, I had some experience with that, running different social media pages and whatnot. And so that was I was able to kind of leverage that to start, get my initial following. But as far as actually producing the podcast, I mean, I didn't even know how to get your podcast listed on Apple Podcasts or any of these other things. I had to go look that up. I had to go find out, okay, where do I upload this MP3 file to? And how do I make it so that people can subscribe? And I started from nothing, and now I have a website. I've got all my social media pages. I'm listed in all these different things. And I had to figure all that stuff out just from like Googling and asking for advice and stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely been a journey for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how that is, because I started my channel, and I was basically just filming my hands fiddling with blasters, like, and when I did actually start talking in front of the camera, it was like in a really dark environment. I figured if the lights were good inside the room, then it should show well on the camera, but that's not always the case. So, and the sound was like really echoey and bad. And I just, and then I started filming here at the church where I'm actually doing the stream right now. I started filming in the parish hall where the lights are really bright and there's no echo in there. And I just kind of learned that, lighting and sound really makes a difference in these videos. And trying to just keep in mind, when I'm filming that, to make sure that it's not going to sound bad or look too bad, So yeah, it is hard to yeah, I mean, you're not going to know that right off the bat. You're going to learn things as you go on, make things better, improving the quality of your content, and just keep improving as time goes on. Um, so do you do
which
this?
also applies to modding too. The more you mod, the better you get at modding. And you can go back to some of your early projects and be like, ooh, man, I can't believe like I just twisted those wires together and put electrical tape around it, and now I use shrink tube and all this stuff, and like you can tell you progress, and with every project you get a little bit better. So it's the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And guys, sorry if I miss any of your questions. I'm trying to stick to certain topics, like we're talking about the podcast. So I didn't want to interrupt that with asking him about modding questions in at the moment. So um, I did see some of them, but and I didn't want to be rude and skip them. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation about what's going on with this podcast with with the nerf stuff. But we'll get back on the nerfing modding stuff. We'll get back on that. And thank you, Miss Ty. Thanks for showing up. Instant Rye Play, thank you for showing up. And Toto Sobre Nerf, thank you so much for coming by. Turtles Blasters, I think that's Toto Sobre Nerf as well, but thank you also. We're talking to Ben from FoamCastRadio. He has a podcast dedicated to Nerf, blasters, modding, gameplay, stuff like that. So his link to his website is actually in the description of this video. So go ahead and check it out if you get the chance to. And see what's going on with him. But thank you so much for coming by. And if you have questions for us, post them in the chat, and I will try and get to them.
And that website is real easy. It's FoamCastRadio.com. So it's not difficult.
There you go. So yeah, do you have anybody that's helping you with this podcast, or is it just you running this on your own?
I definitely have gotten feedback from people that's been really helpful. Like I said, Borrowed Equipment Podcasts helped me out a lot. If you've ever listened to any of their podcasts, they make a lot of podcasts about the justice system, like Actual Innocence, which is about people who've been wrongly convicted and then later proven innocent.
Okay.
And just a lot of things like that about the justice system and legal stuff. But Brooke Giddings over there, I messaged her, I think I commented on one of her Instagram posts, and I was like, hey, what's a good microphone that you could recommend that's not too expensive? And she commented back and said, send me a message. And so I did. And basically she tricked me into letting her send me one of her spare microphones, which I initially turned down. And I said, well, at least let me pay the shipping or something. And she said, well, tell me your address and I'll see how much the shipping is. And so I told her, and she said, okay, it's on the way. And I was like, well, okay. so that was super helpful. Like, that made my audio quality go from like a 10 to like an 85. And then just feedback from people who listen. I mean, every once in a while I'll get a message from somebody saying, hey, I love the show, or whatever. And I always ask them, I'm like, thank you. Okay, great. I have a fan talking to me directly. Now, please, is there anything I can do to make the show better? And, I try to take advantage of the fact that there's somebody there that has come to me instead of me having to go out and solicit advice from people. But yeah, I've definitely gotten some good feedback that's helped me out. And I've also gotten some that was not as helpful, but I tried to take it into account and adjust things accordingly. And I mean, I'm always open to more advice on how to make it better. So
cool. Yeah. I mean, when I sometimes I see comments that they seem like rude to me, but it's actually just telling me, pardon me. It's actually just giving me advice, but I'm taking it the wrong way, and it'll sound, in my head, I'm like, man, come on, I'm doing great. But, I'm like, what has he got to say that? But in all honesty, like, some of it is like, yeah, it's pretty good advice now that I think about it. So it just kind of helps how you take it on but sometimes it is just straight bullying.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've given advice to people too, and I always try to sort of frame it as like, I also have been there, and it took me a while to figure this out, and I'm trying to help you, like, not have to, figure out how to solve this problem. I'm trying to just give you the answer right now. And so instead of just being like, hey, you need to do this, this sucks and you need to do that so that it doesn't suck anymore. It's more like, hey, it would really help out if you did this. And I'm telling you because I had to figure that out, and it took me a long time to figure that out. And once I did, it really helped. So I think part of it has to do with how people frame their feedback too.
Yeah, that is very true. Thanks, Wawia and Simply Glam. Thanks for stopping in. I'm here with FoamCast Radio, Ben. So so on your normal podcasts, do you usually have guests, or is it just you by yourself?
Most of the time I have guests. I think in total I've had 3 out of 27 episodes that didn't have guests on them. So most of the time I do have somebody that I interview, and that takes up the bulk of the show. So the ones you can actually tell which ones don't have guests because they end up being a lot shorter than any of the others. But I do try to get guests on the show. The episode that came out today is one of the ones that doesn't have a guest, and you can tell because it's only like 15 minutes long. But I still go into all the news updates. I still go into talking about all the events around the world, stuff like that. So I have some stuff that for sure is going to be in every single episode. And I try to get guests for every episode, but sometimes I just can't make it work. Fortunately, I do have 3 people scheduled for interviews in the next week, and then I've got 2 more that I'm trying to make connections with that have expressed an interest in being interviewed. And I put 1 on each show each week, so that'll last me for a while. And I mean, I've had a ton of people on the show that have been really interesting to people to talk to. I've had YouTubers like Captain Xavier has been on the show. I've had people from big companies like Casey from Bunker. I've had, let's see, I've had the Monkeytron Collective guys. I've had the kids from Toy Boys Inc. TV YouTube channel. I don't know if you've seen those, the little Australian kids. They're pretty funny.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that. I know who they are.
Yeah, I had them on the show, and that was pretty fun. A little difficult to interview because they like to answer in one-word answers.
Oh yeah,
because they're little kids and they're not sure how to do that. They're probably kind of nervous, but it was still a ton of fun. And let's see who else. I mean, I've just had a ton of different people from Kickstarters, people, modders, even like people that I found on Instagram that were making some really cool modded blasters. I've had them on. I've done discussion formats. I've had Jesse from Project FDL. And then I also had him back on again with his wife and with TK1138 to talk about Atomic Dart League. So I mean, I've had a lot of really cool people on, and I am like super, super grateful to all of them for making the time.
yeah,
Because it definitely helped me out a lot more than it helped them. I mean, they have the exposure. Everyone knows who they are already, but it helps me out a lot to have such cool, interesting people on the show. So that's pretty awesome. And I've made some really cool connections by doing that. People that I can go back and talk to later, or they come back to me and tell me stuff or whatever. And so it's been pretty awesome.
yeah. That's great. And I totally know where you're coming from. I was just actually not so long ago. I was just on doing a live stream, just playing around, trying to test out my Hangouts thing, and Boomtendo came on with me, and we were just talking, and we just thought up like an interview. So I just started interviewing him, and then we decided like that'd be pretty cool if we just did an interview, did an interview series. So I started rolling with it. I didn't even think anyone would want to be on it, to be honest. I didn't think anyone would want to do it. So I've been like really surprised, and I've been really grateful for like you and everyone else who's actually joined up. It's been really cool for me. And it's been going really well. I've been getting a lot of good feedback, and it's been getting shared a lot online as well. So
yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that you said you didn't even think anyone would want to be on it. When I first started out with FoamCast Radio, my very first episode does not have a guest, and that's not because I couldn't find one. It's because I honestly had never even thought of doing that. Like I didn't consider that an option of having a guest on the show. And I made my first episode. I think it was my first episode, and then by the time I came around to make my second one, I had already found somebody that I thought would be a cool person to interview. And I like literally had to scramble to figure out how do I record a Skype call so that I could put it into the podcast. And I figured that out. And then immediately I just started making these connections like, wait, I could interview that guy and I could interview that guy. And I started sending out messages to people and I started getting all these different people. I mean, I've got like competitors from the National Dart Wars Association. I've got people like league owners, or I've got like club admins and people who organize events and all these different things just everywhere. And I was like, I have so many opportunities for interviews here. And I had not even considered that. I hadn't even thought of having somebody else on the show with me. I have thought about having a co-host, and that would be kind of nice to have a co-host, but I never thought about having guests on the show. I hadn't even considered that. And then I just happened to have one. And then I was just like, well, this is how I got to do it now. And so now almost every single episode has a guest. Like I said, I think there's been 3 that didn't have a guest. One of them was that very first one where I literally just hadn't even thought of it before then.
Yeah. Right on. And you basically talk about it's basically all Nerf related, correct?
Oh yeah, it's all about blaster toys. Everything's relevant to that. So it's sometimes the connection is a little bit looser than other times, but it always ties back to that. So for example, like my episode for last week, I actually had the president of the LukeStrong Foundation on, and she is the one who's organizing a big NERF party, basically in memory of her son who passed away from cancer after fighting that for a long time, and he was only 10 years old. And his whole dream was he wanted to bring the joy of Nerf blasters to other kids. And so she started a foundation and has started to take donations and stuff. And people are sending all kinds of blasters and everything. And she's putting together these, starting to put together these events. So that was more about like a charity that's doing this stuff, but it still had to do with blasters. So everything ties back to that. In one way or another. So it's if you like blasters, if you like Nerf, if you like, foam darts or rival rounds or whatever, that's what my show is about.
Is that charity still going on? Because I'd like to link that in the description once this is ended.
Yeah, it's called LukeStrong. And if you go on Facebook and just search for LukeStrong, all one word, no spaces or anything, you can find it. And I do have a link on my website to it as well. And basically what they're doing is they have an Amazon wish list. And if you order anything off of that wish list, instead of being shipped to you, it gets shipped to them. And then they're taking all these blasters, and they're only accepting blasters that are new in box. But they're taking them all and basically collecting them all together. And then they're going to have these big parties at children's hospitals, which is pretty awesome. And then the Jared Gines from Jared's Epic Nerf Battle found out about it, and he was going to give a bunch of his used blasters, and she had to turn it down because she said, well, we only want new in box because we don't want anything to be modified or anything like that. And he said, oh, okay. And so then he went and talked to Hasbro, and Hasbro sent like 60 blasters to her. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So, but stuff like that, like it's not so much about like competition or some cool event that's happening or anything like that, but it is still Nerf related, and it is still really cool. And it's something that I think our community could definitely get behind. And so I thought it was something interesting to bring onto the show.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's really good. I really like when people start doing things like that, like for charity as well, using the hobby and doing something really positive out of it. Like Clowny does during the holidays, he does his Christmas toy drive where he does a giveaway that if you purchase a new toy, you show him the receipt and you get entered in a giveaway that he's doing, and he gives away like a blaster, like a really nice, and something really nice, like a really nice blaster he'll give away. So that's really cool, man. yeah, I do appreciate when people do stuff like that. Using the hobby for using our community for good. Um, and speaking of that, what do you think of our community at the moment? Like, how do you feel about the state of our community?
The state of the community, I think it's good. I think it's a very positive environment. I think we're at a point right now where if somebody's getting into it and they don't really know what they're doing and they're asking for help, people want to be helpful and people want to invite more people into the hobby. Um, that being said, we did see, with the announcement of the Fortnite blasters and then the more recent announcement of the AR-L Fortnite blaster from NERF, a bunch of people saying, "Oh man, now we're going to get a bunch of 12-year-old kids that are screaming at each other. They're going to join our hobby." And when I saw that, I was like, "Okay, you know what? Relax. We already have screaming kids in our hobby. It's not going to take a Fortnite deal to cause that to happen." And the other thing is, if a bunch of screaming kids are showing up and no one else is a screaming kid, they're not going to feel like they fit in and they're going to leave. So, like, I'm very not worried about that being a problem. But anyway, getting back to the question, I think overall it's a very welcoming community. I think people who are in this hobby really like sharing it, really like bringing more people into it. And I think that's why it's been growing so much and why it's exploding, is because so many people are going out and sharing it with other people and inviting other people to events and stuff, and showing them what they've got. And the other cool thing about it is, as far as hobbies go, it is not an expensive one. If you look at stuff like airsoft, gets way more pricey, and so it's something that you definitely can go expensive with it. Like, you can go get an FDL3 or the new Worker Dominator and spend hundreds of dollars, but you can also start out really, really inexpensive. So it has a very low barrier to entry, and it's appropriate for all ages. You've got little kids, you've got adults, everybody in between playing, and there's all sorts of different. I mean, there's a whole spectrum going from stock, super stock, ultra stock, and different game types and all this stuff. And so it's so fun, and there's something for everybody. And so I think because of the fact that everybody is just so welcoming and bringing more people in, it's just blowing up, and I think it's just going to keep doing that. So to answer your question, I'm very optimistic about the state of our hobby, and I think it's only going to get better going forward.
Right on, right on. I agree, man. I think it's a super welcoming community. I mean, everybody's been super cool to me since I started. Like I was saying in the BTA, a lot of these people just were really, really helpful, really wanting to show me how to play, the 5-on-5 thing. Really helping me with like transportation, trying to get me a ride to and from the place because I don't have a vehicle. But yeah, they've been really, really great people. Everyone's been super helpful. They always they seem to want to help. Everybody seems to want to help out, as at least in my local community and online so far. From what I've seen, everybody's been extremely helpful. Do you see any I mean, what negative aspects in the community do you witness right now?
Um, I like I said, I'm very optimistic, and I think I probably tend to tune out any negativity. So I don't know if I can really answer that question because I don't really see any problems or anything like that. And it doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that's not really what I'm focused on. I try to stay away from anything that's going to hurt people's feelings or be controversial or anything like that. So, like, for example, if you listen to my show, like, I don't rip on anybody ever, because I I just don't like to do that. Even the companies, the only manufacturer that I've ever talked about negatively has been Hasbro, and it was in a conversation about uh, manufacturers being pro or against, for or against modding, and so we were talking. We were comparing and contrasting the different manufacturers, and we said, you know, Hasbro really doesn't like when people mod, and that's why they try to make it difficult in all these different ways. But like, other than that, I really haven't ripped into anybody. And I think, I mean, I why can't we all just get along?
Right.
I think everything, as far as like new products and everything, I'm happy to see everything out there. Like, people tell me, oh, you know, this, did you see this new blaster that's coming out or whatever? And it could be just a Jolt reskin or a Strife reskin or something like that. I don't care. I like it. I like all of it. And I want one. You know, people are talking about the micro shots, like, oh man, this you know, rough cut micro shot. Too bad they didn't make it a, you know, an actual shotgun like the rough cut. And I'm like, okay, but it's a micro shot. We knew that wasn't going to happen, and it's still cool. Like, I still want one, even though it's just a Jolt.
Yeah.
That's kind of my uh view on everything, is just that it's all so cool, and there's so many different things out there, and not everybody has to be into everything,
Hmm.
but I don't think there's any aspect of the hobby that turns me away. So like, you know, we were talking about the cosmetic mods. It's not something I'm really into, it's not something that I'm really doing. But if somebody came to me and said, hey, check out this blaster I modded, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And I mean, I do that. I'm on Instagram. I follow a lot of different modders, and I like every single one of their posts. And I'm like, man, that is so cool. Like, you're getting better and better. Like, there's one guy that I've been watching since he started out with, like, you know, rattle canning stuff. And now he's like doing wood grain patterns by hand and all this, and, you know, weathering things and everything. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Am I going to do that? No. Do I really want any of my blasters to look like that? Not really. But I still think it's really cool that people are doing that stuff. So, like I said, I'm really an optimist, and I try not to really focus on negativity. I don't really get into drama. I don't really care about any of that stuff. It doesn't interest me. So I'm very optimistic about it all.
I could totally appreciate that, man. That's yeah, very good, very good. I don't really see a lot of the negative either, uh, but I like to bring it up because there's some people that do see some negative aspects, and they tend to want to speak about it, you know, on ways to rectify it. One of them was about the bullying happening, and I think Clowney brought that up about the bullying happening in some of these online groups. People coming in asking questions, and I guess folks would gang up on them, like, "Why would you want to do something to that blaster, you moron?" You know, things like that, which I haven't seen. I think a lot of the moderators kind of jump on that, you know, nowadays, at least in the groups I'm in. But yeah, some people tend to see some of the negative things, and you know, so I just wanted to get your feedback on that. Possibly you saw anything, you know, in the community that was kind of you know, sending us in a bad direction. But that's really
Yeah,
good, man.
I don't know if you've seen the video that Bobo Lolo put out, that was like I think it was called like top 5 things I wish Nerf modders would stop doing. And
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
yeah, and he mentioned a few different things, but one of the things was, he said, gatekeeping, meaning, you know, somebody tells you, oh yeah, I'm also into Nerf, and then you feel like you have to quiz them and see if they really are into Nerf, you know. Like, oh really, how many retaliators do you have? And it's like, dude, relax. Like, even if they just have a strong arm, if they really like playing with that strong arm, they're into Nerf. Like, just get over it. Like, it's not your job to be the Nerf police and decide who is or isn't a real Nerfer, you know. um,
Honestly, I don't even think I know how many retaliators there are, man. There's a lot of questions I wouldn't know, dude.
Yeah, no, but you know, it's like that typical thing where somebody says, "Oh yeah, I'm a Metallica fan," and they say, "Really? Name
Yeah.
3 Metallica songs." It's like, just relax. If they like one Metallica song, they can call themselves a Metallica fan. It's not your job to judge who is or isn't a Metallica fan, you know. And same thing, like, it's not anybody's job to decide who is or isn't a real Nerfer. But that being said, I personally haven't really seen that going on. I
Yeah.
have seen some stuff like on Reddit and stuff like that, where people have been saying, oh, you definitely shouldn't do this. And if you do, you're bad for doing it. For example, using IMRs.
Yeah, I got that on
Telling,
Reddit.
yeah, telling people, oh, if you use an IMR, you're a bad modder. And it's like, just relax. Like a lot of these people, they're just getting into it. And if the first feedback that they get when they do a mod is you suck at modding, they might decide not to mod anymore. And that's not what we want. We want more people, but we want to help them along and we want to make them better. So, a much more useful thing to say would be, that's really interesting and a great first step. However, for these different reasons, you should probably upgrade to a LiPo and you should do a rewire and blah, blah, blah. And by doing that, it's more educational. You're bringing them along instead of saying, you made a dumb mod. You did something dumb that I don't like, that I probably did once, but then someone else told me it was dumb. So now I'm going to tell you it's dumb. And it's like, relax. Like, I understand IMRs are not great for a lot of reasons, but you don't need to like banish someone, exile them from the community just because they didn't know what they were doing. Like, help them along. But I, I think that's probably the only thing I've ever really seen, and not really that much. So I don't know. And like I said, I don't like to focus on stuff. I don't like to emphasize the negative stuff. I did see one sort of bullying thing where a certain personality that I won't name was being kind of raked over the coals. And I said, you know what? I'm not putting this on my podcast. Like, this is not what I want people to think of when they're thinking of our community. And this is not what I want people in the community to be focused on. I want people to focus on having fun, making cool blasters, competing, having battles and stuff like that. Not drama, who likes who hates who did what to who. I don't care about any of that stuff. And I don't want to distract other people with that. So when this other thing happened, I just made a decision. I'm not even going to comment on this. I'm not going to say anything about it to anybody. And even now, I'm not even telling you who it's about, because I don't want it to be a topic of conversation. I want it to go away. So
definitely, man. And what's funny is the pastor here at this church, he's big in the modding community. He's a big modder, and he's been doing it for like over 4 years, and he loves IMRs, man. He lives by IMRs. He gets on me for using lipos now. He's like, oh, you went up to lipos, you traitor. But yeah, I mean,
lipo elitist.
Exactly, man. He likes IMR batteries. Every time I do a new build and I chrono it, he'll be like, okay, so that's getting under what it would if it had 4 IMRs in it. It's just, yeah.
I like what OC NERF just posted, which is a quote: "Be serious about NERF, but don't take NERF too seriously." Like, that's exactly it. Like,
True.
Take it seriously to the extent that you're getting into it and everything, and you're having fun, but also don't get carried away to where it's like, this is what life is now about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this community, like, I'm big into wrestling, and I used to go to listen to wrestling podcasts a lot. And I would go to the forums, and man, they would argue over everything. Oh my God, it was the worst. I mean, the cyberbullying. Oh, you would get so much hate, if you had a perspective on one of the wrestlers that someone else did. And it was crazy. I mean, this is a mild community. This is like the most loving community compared to that stuff, So
yeah, I think really the worst part of it is over on Reddit, where people like to argue back and forth for 98 comments in a row about who's right and who's wrong. But other than that, I mean, I mostly try to stay on like Facebook groups where I feel like people are a lot more civil. And so, like I said, for the most part, the negative parts I just don't even see, because I stay away from it.
Right on, man. Right on. Hey, so what's the future for the podcast, man? What do you have coming up? What, what's gonna go on?
Oh man, off the top of my head, I probably have to say uh, more of the same, but just more of it. Um, I've got some cool guests lined up. I'm working
I'm
on
not
getting.
lined up, so they can't be that cool.
No, they're not that cool. I'm really not at the level yet where I can have you as a guest on my podcast. I need to be like way better before I have you on, because I don't want to embarrass you by bringing you on my podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Understandable. I mean, I've turned down Conan and Kimmel like several times now,
Yeah, yeah. See, when I get to the level where I'm turning them down, that's when I'll have you on. But no, I do have some guests lined up, and I'm working on getting more products to review, and I've got some on the way, which is pretty exciting. And then I've got like I mentioned before, I've got more builds I'm working on that I'm going to be talking about a little bit more. Um, and then yeah, just continuing to cover stuff as far as news and everything, and just keeping up with it. I did just start, like today, I started a new contest format. For a long time early on, I was doing a contest where I would take a picture of some parts that I had removed from a blaster during modding, and I would set them out on the table, and I'd take a picture, and I'd say, if you comment below and you say which blaster these came from, and you're right, you'll be entered to win a prize. And then, some people would enter, and I would take all the right answers, and I would randomly select one, and I'd send them a piece of merch. But I kind of stopped doing that after a while. And maybe like a month, maybe 2 months ago, I kind of stopped doing that. But I'm going to start up weekly contests again. And this episode that just came out today is the first one where I started that, and I call it the counterintelligence contest. So basically, I'm going to hide at some point in every episode a little segment where it's going to be like 30 seconds long, where basically it says, this week's counterintelligence keyword is blah blah blah. Go to FoamCastRadio.com/win and enter it to be entered to win a whatever, and it'll be a different piece of merch every week. So this week, the piece of merch that you can win is a FoamCast Radio mug, coffee mug. And all you have to do is listen to the episode, find the keyword, find where I mentioned the keyword, and then go on FoamCastRadio.com/win and fill out the form, and you'll be entered. And then on next week's show, I'll say whoever the winner was, and I'll ship them out a coffee mug, and then we'll do it again. And I'm going to hide it in the episode so that people will have to be paying attention. And because I really want to reward the fans of the podcast, the people who are actually listening every week, by setting that up for them. So that's kind of cool. So if anybody watching wants a free piece of FoamCast Radio merch, head over to your podcast app, whatever podcast app you use, or go to FoamCastRadio.com and listen to the episode for that keyword.
Awesome, man. Sounds good. Any plans of getting involved with YouTube or anything? Any expanding your social media in any way?
No YouTube plans. It's an audio only podcast, so I don't have any plans to get into YouTube. I'm on all the different podcast platforms right now. Pretty much. I don't know of any that I'm not on. Well, maybe like iHeartRadio or something like that, but I'm on pretty much all of them. As far as social media stuff, I've got Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram that are all very active. I also have a Facebook fan group where, in order to join it, you have to answer some questions about it to make sure that you really are a fan. So I don't have a bunch of spammers in there and stuff like that. I have people who are actually listening to the podcast, which is cool. And people can post their war footage. People can post pictures of their mods, or discuss the episodes. And I post a lot of different giveaways in there. So anytime any of these different parts manufacturers or anything like that are giving stuff away, I'll post that over in that group and say, hey, everybody, head over here and enter. So, hopefully somebody can win that. So that's something I've been trying to get people to go join that FoamCast Radio fans group on Facebook. And then eventually I'm thinking about maybe making like a Google Plus community, but I don't know if Google Plus is really a thing anymore. It was for a while. It was pretty big for a while, but maybe have a presence there just in case there's people over there that want to do that. But other than that, I mean, I'm pretty active on social media, on all the major platforms, and yeah, I definitely don't have any YouTube plans just because that doesn't really fit the format of the show. It's a lot of times people call what they do a podcast, but if you're not on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, stuff like that, you're just on YouTube, you're not a podcast, you're a YouTube channel. And I think the two are very different formats. That's not to say that you can't do both. I mean, there are some podcasts that I listen to that start out as YouTube videos, and then the people who make the YouTube video will take the audio track by itself, turn it into a podcast feed, and then you can subscribe to it in a podcast app. So I listen to several podcasts that I actually found on YouTube initially as YouTube videos with, people on screen, but I listened to just the audio portion as a podcast. But I don't think it really translates back the other way. Like if I was going to put my podcast on YouTube, I think probably what you would see on the screen would just be like still images of whatever I was talking about at the time. It definitely would not be video of me because, like I was talking to you about earlier before we started this, it is so much more work to try to edit together video into something like that than editing together audio. I mean, I already spend a couple hours on every episode editing the audio together, putting in all the background music and the intro and the outro and all the different things. I spend enough time on that already. I would end up spending a lot more if it was a video, because now you've got so much more stuff that you have to worry about. So I don't have any YouTube plans right now.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense, man. Anything else you want to bring up while we're on?
I don't think so. I think maybe we should go back through some of these questions, because I know there's been a lot that people have been asking, and we haven't really gotten to some of them yet. So maybe we should get into some questions.
Let's see. If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and send it. You can type it in now. There was.
If you already asked a question and we have not answered it yet, ask it again. That way we see it again at the very bottom of the chat, and then then we can get to it.
Yeah, there was like a couple of the like blaster question type questions that but we were talking about the podcast, and I didn't really want to interrupt with it. Let's see. I don't know if I'm not sure if there was any I really missed though. Let's see. I know Clowny asked for a link to the he asked for a link to the charity that we were discussing that I was going to post in the description once we were done.
Yes. Yeah. And you can just go on Facebook and search for LukeStrong, all one word. And there's a Facebook page for it. And that's how I would mention, or how I would recommend getting a hold of them. That's how I got a hold of them, is I just found them on Facebook and sent them a message. One question that I noticed from earlier, and I think he might have left already, but Nerfer99 asked me what my favorite magazine size is. Currently,
yeah, that's what it was.
Currently, it's the 12 round magazine, just because I find that it doesn't tend to fall off my kit and clatter to the ground while I'm running the same way that 18 rounds do. 18s are just so long, like trying to put them on a vest is like impossible. I'm working on trying to get some sort of a belt, like a battle belt set up to take care of that. But right now, 12 rounders are my favorite. I wouldn't go above 18. Like I wouldn't go with a drum just because they have so many problems. I've never had a drum magazine that fed well. And 18s, like I said, are just really long. So probably 12s.
That's my favorite too, actually. I like the 12s a lot. I like the 18s though. 18s are like the longest ones I use, and I just stick those in my cargo pockets. They're pretty good to stick down in my cargo pockets because I don't have a vest. Yeah, well, actually, I just got a vest recently to feature on the channel, but before that, I didn't have one, so I was just sticking things in my cargo pockets and taping mags together and stuff like that. But 12s and 18s and 15s, I didn't really use 15s much, but 12s and 18s are the ones I really used. 12s though, I really do like those a lot.
Yeah. Let's see. They call me Socks. Asked what's my favorite color. Um, Specifically for this hobby, my favorite colors are white and blue. So my rival ammo that I use for everything is the half white, half blue headshot ammo rounds. Because they're very distinct. I have never been to a battle where someone else had the same ones, and so I can always tell which ones are mine. And yeah, I really like white and blue together. And then, um, and like a lot of the modulus stuff kind of fits that theme. And what I would really like to do is get some darts that are white bodies and then blue waffle tips. Because waffle darts are my favorite kind of dart. But I actually went to NF Strike and I asked them if they could make those, and they were only going to produce them for me if I ordered, I think, 100,000, because they weren't making any of those blue waffle tips. Of course, they make the white bodies because you can find a lot of white darts out there, but they all have orange tips. And so for the blue waffle tips, they said, well, we can make them, but you have to order a lot of them to make it worth it for us. And
Damn.
it was way too much money. And I said, maybe after I win a
Yeah.
lottery, I'll come back to that idea. But
No
that's like my
kidding.
dream dart. I would love to have white darts with blue waffle tips.
That would be pretty cool, man. OC Nerf is asking about your favorite blaster loadout. Have you talked about your favorite blaster loadout in games yet? No, we haven't talked. I think we talked about games a little bit, but not blaster loadout.
Yeah. So personally, I have a few different loadouts. Right now, one of my favorites is this regulator right here. This is my regulator, and
Nice.
it has fangs revamped in it with blaster parts, flywheels, and a 2S lipo. And then that is that's one of my favorites right now. And then I just run a bunch of 12-round magazines through it, and waffle darts. I also like my rival loadout, which is a chaos with an extra magazine on one thigh and a Chronos on the other. And the chaos has not been modified yet, but the Chronos does have a K26 in it. And then I have another one that has one of the Ace Hardware number 49 springs in it. And both of those are currently, I'm working on getting them speed loaders. I have a friend locally who has a 3D printer, and he's working on making some custom speed loaders and jam door delete little holes for the speed loaders to go into. And he's doing those in my favorite colors. He's doing the little doors in blue, and so it'll add a little bit of blue to the Chronos. And then the speed loaders are in white with blue pushers. So that way they'll be my favorite colors. And then we're also talking about trying to figure out how to print 3D print a raised FoamCastRadio logo onto them so that it's like very unique. But that's my rival setup is with the Chronos, the Chaos, and the spare Chaos mag. And let's see. And the Chaos also has the red dot sight on it. And it has an action camera mounted on it as well. And then let's see. Oh, one thing that like seems like a no-brainer to me, but no one else seems to do it is all of my kits have two-way radios. Every single
Cool.
one of them has a walkie-talkie, because one of these days, I don't know when, but one of these days I'll go to a battle where the team that I'm on, other people will have walkie-talkies. Maybe just one other person might have a walkie-talkie, and then I'll finally have someone I can use it with. But to me, it like makes it makes perfect sense to want to have walkie-talkies, especially with a large field. I don't know why people don't use them more. They're not expensive. You can get like a 2-pack of walkie-talkies for like $20, $25 on Amazon. And they all work with each other. If they're FRS radios, they all talk to each other. So all of my kits have radios too.
Yeah, that's what Boomtendo and I were just talking about, getting some walkie-talkies for our group for our BTA. Because you could yell from the sidelines, or you communicate with each other on the field, but you have so many blasters, humming with the flywheels and everything, and it's really hard to hear each other, even when you're yelling at each other like across the field. I mean, it's hard to hear out there. So
Yeah.
other teams yelling and everything. So yeah, we were just talking about getting walkie-talkies, or he was thinking of using Discord. But yeah, that's a really good idea. All right, we'll take like 2 more questions, and then I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We have the cleaning people are gonna be coming through here pretty soon. Unless you want to try and stream with the vacuum going, I think.
OC NERF, thank you for that recommendation for the software. I'll pass that along to my my printing friend and see if he can do that. He's kind of new at it as well, as far as doing the modeling and stuff. So that'll be helpful. Thank you.
David James asked, David, who's here with me. Hi. He's asking, what do you think of the new homemade blasters that are coming out?
I think they're all amazing. Is there one in specific that you're asking about?
Anything specifically? Like the new pigeons, like the
the pigeon, the Jupiter,
FDL3 Jupiter.
FDL3,
yeah, he's saying like those,
yeah,
like just any of those, like the new
all of them,
designs.
Yeah. Yep, I love them all. Bring it on. I love it.
They're incredible.
Yeah, I like that the guy who made the pump shotgun that's totally 3D printed and has the shells that eject and everything.
Yeah, the Spring Thunder.
Yeah, man,
sick,
there's so many good ones. I honestly, like, I would if I worked for one of the blaster manufacturers, I'd be looking at those things and going, we need to hire that guy, because there are some people coming up with some really cool designs, and I like all of them. I don't have any of them yet. I've talked with Jesse from Project FDL a lot, and I know that I definitely for sure want an FDL3, but I don't have any of them yet, but they're definitely on my wish list for sure.
I know. Yeah, me neither. I don't have a 3D printer, so I can't even print out, some of it and then just get, the guts for it or anything like that. Like Boomtendo, he just got his he just printed out his Caliboom, he set it up, Caliburn he set up for Boomco. And he also has a Spring Thunder as well. So yeah, it'd be so much easier to have a printer, be able to print out print out the pieces for it, and just get the hardware. That would be so good to do, but it's those are expensive, and I don't even know if I'd understand how to even work a 3D printer.
Yeah. So They Call Me Socks asks, does the Select Fire still work on the LiPo? Talking about my regulator. It absolutely does. I have a 2S LiPo in here that fits the stock battery tray with the stock door and everything, so you can't even tell. The whole thing just looks totally stock, but if I rev it, you can tell that's not stock.
Yeah.
And it absolutely does work with the Select Fire. The trick is to use a MOSFET. And it was actually my friend that helps me with my soldering and whatnot, that came up with the whole layout for the wiring and stuff. But basically, what you want to do is you want to have full voltage going to the flywheel motors, but everything else, all the circuit boards and everything, you want running through that MOSFET. That way you're not overvolting it and burning out the board. And the way that he figured that out was he attempted it on his own first and fried the board. So now his is full auto only. But then on the second go around with mine, I told him, okay, you can work on mine, but if you break it, you have to buy me a new one. And so he worked on it, and he was able to successfully modify that and keep the select fire. The only caveat to that is that the conveyor motor is still on the lower voltage, so the rate of fire is exactly the same as stock, but the FPS is a lot higher because of the fangs revamped that are in there.
Awesome. Well, right on. Thank you so much, Ben. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and being on my channel and speaking with me live. Thank you so much for coming by. And yeah, and I look forward to your next show, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely gonna probably take an audio clip from this at some point and put it into my next show and use it as kind of a shout out and point people back to this so they can come check it out. Definitely like what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. Great having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I think it's good what you're doing for the community, and yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. I look forward to checking it out, and I'll look forward to more after that.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. Take care, man. All right. Thank you, everybody who stuck around in the chat. Thank you, everybody who came by tonight. Boomtendo, OC, NERF. Thanks for sticking it out. You guys are pretty much here the whole time. Same with you, David. David, thank you so much for watching my back. He was making sure he was making sure no insurgents came in through the door, and tried to tag me. He was right there with the Strife, the one that I just put a new cage in. So thank you, Socks, for stopping by too. You were here for a lot of the time too. And Clowny, Soft Spoken Hensy, thank you so much. Patricia Sprinkles, Total Sobre Nerf, thank you so much. Sylvia W, thank you. Nerfer 99, Turtles, Simply Glam, thank you so much for coming by. Story Time with Miss Ty, I appreciate it. Instant Rye Play, thank you so much. Everybody else, Tisha, thank you so much for coming by. I know you're driving to your families right now, and I appreciate you taking the time to stop in. Ben Anderson, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. And Griever, thanks for coming by as well. Yeah, so next week I have OC Nerf and Griever coming in. They're going to be on my channel talking to me, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have a video coming out this weekend. Haven't even started on it. I'll try and get something done. Been lagging. Thank you so much. I want to thank my patrons, Brad from American Foam, Homely 665, Slater, Inga Loves Life, and Tisha Key. I'm going to put their links in the description of this video. So please patronize my patrons for patronizing me. Patronizing my patrons. Personal pan pizza, please. So thank you. I also have t-shirts available. T-shirts. They look like my logo. So check them out. They're on my Etsy store. I have the link in the about section of my channel, and it's also in the banner. If you're using the PC, you'll see the links in the banner. Yeah, so I do have shirts. They look pretty cool, even if you're not a fan of the channel and you're a fan of Nerf, or if you're just a fan of being broke, it'll work for you too. Or if you just like having targets on your chest, they'll work for all that stuff. So yeah, thanks guys for being with me. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope it was good enough. Was it good enough for you, huh? Hope it was good enough for you guys. And oh yeah, I'm giving $100 to the next